Picture this. You're staring down a figure who could crush you in a heartbeat, built like a fortress of muscle and bone, engineered by nature to endure traumas that would end you in seconds. Now imagine this powerhouse is your distant kin, woven into the very fabric of your DNA. Welcome to the world of Neanderthals, Homo neanderthalensis, not the clumsy brutes of old textbooks, but extraordinary survivors who redefined what it means to be human. For over a century, we've misjudged them, painting them as evolutionary failures. Yet, modern science is flipping the script, revealing beings who mastered brutal landscapes, pioneered technologies, crafted art, and cared for their own with a compassion that echoes in us today. Let's dive into their story, unravel their brilliance, and discover why Neanderthals force us to rethink the saga of human evolution. Neanderthals weren't just tough. They were built for a world that chewed up and spat out the unprepared. Their stocky frames, shorter than modern humans, were no accident. With compact torsos and shorter limbs, they conserved body heat in the icy grip of glacial Europe, as studies from institutions like the Smithsonian confirm. Their broad nasal cavities acted like natural humidifiers, warming and moistening the frigid air before it hit their lungs. Those heavy brow ridges? They framed eyes larger than ours, adapted to catch every scrap of light in the dim northern latitudes, according to fossil analyses. Their brains were wired differently, too. Research from Oxford and other universities shows Neanderthals devoted more neural real estate to vision and motor control, likely at the expense of a smaller cerebellum, the part of the brain tied to social nuance and abstract thinking. This doesn't mean they were less intelligent. They were specialized for a life where survival demanded razor-sharp senses and brute strength. A Neanderthal male, averaging 5'6", 1.68 meters, and 180 pounds 82 kilograms, was a powerhouse compared to early modern humans at 5'9", 1.75 meters, and 150 pounds 68 kilograms. Their extra weight was pure muscle and dense bone, giving them up to 3 times the upper body strength. Their skeletons, with thick femurs and robust joints, were like living armor, designed to absorb punishment that would shatter us. Archaeological finds tell a story of relentless resilience. Neanderthal bones show healed fractures, especially to the head and neck, that suggest they wrestled massive beasts like woolly rhinos up close. These weren't fatal wounds. They healed, and their owners lived on, sometimes for decades. Think of them as nature's tanks, built to take hits and keep moving. Forget the stereotype of Neanderthals as crude tool users. They were innovators who could teach us a thing or two about ingenuity. Take birch tar, a sticky substance they crafted by heating birch bark in a low-oxygen environment at precise temperatures. As reported in journals like Sciences, this process required not just skill, but a deep understanding of materials, essentially an early industrial technique. A 2024 find in Gibraltar uncovered hearths designed specifically for tar production, proving Neanderthals planned and engineered solutions to complex problems. This wasn't a one-off fluke. Their ability to refine and pass down such knowledge points to cumulative cultural evolution, a hallmark of sophisticated societies. They didn't just stumble upon solutions. They built on them, generation after generation, long before modern humans set foot in Europe. For years, we thought art was humanity's exclusive domain. Then Neanderthals flipped that idea on its head. At sites like Krapina in Croatia, they fashioned jewelry from eagle talons 130,000 years ago. In Spain's Cueva de los Aviones, perforated seashells, stained with pigments, date to 115,000 years ago, well before modern humans arrived. Most striking are the cave paintings in La Pasiega, Maltraviso, and Ardales, Spain. Uranium-thorium dating places these abstract designs and hand stencils at 65,000 to 80,000 years old, suggesting Neanderthals were artists before we were. They also collected black feathers and imported red ochre from distant sources, possibly for rituals or decoration. While some debate lingers over whether they created figurative art like animal depictions, the evidence for symbolic thought is undeniable. Neanderthals weren't just surviving, they were expressing themselves, leaving marks of meaning on the world. Perhaps the most jaw-dropping aspect of Neanderthal life was their healthcare. This wasn't bandaging a cut. It was long-term, life-saving care that puts our assumptions to shame. Consider Shanidar I, a Neanderthal from Iraq's Shanidar cave. His injuries read like a medical horror story. A crushed face leaving him partially blind, a withered arm, a deformed leg causing a limp, and crippling joint disease. Yet he lived to 35 to 50 years, an old age for the Stone Age. This was only possible because his community fed, protected, and cared for him for decades, as University of York studies suggest. Their care went beyond survival. Tooth grooves show they used toothpicks for dental hygiene. Chemical traces in dental calculus reveal they ate bitter plants like poplar, rich in salicylic acid, aspirin's key ingredient, to manage pain or illness. This wasn't just keeping people alive, it was easing their suffering, driven by what researchers like Dr. Penny Spickens call genuine compassion. Did Neanderthals talk? The evidence leans toward yes. Their vocal tracts and ear structures were nearly identical to ours, per anatomical studies. Genetic clues are even stronger. Sustained interbreeding with modern humans over thousands of years implies communication, likely verbal. You don't build relationships across species without some shared language. But there's a catch. Their smaller cerebellum may have limited their capacity for abstract, metaphorical language, the kind that fuels poetry or complex storytelling. Their speech was likely practical, tied to immediate needs like hunting or tool-making. This difference might explain why modern humans later surged ahead in cultural innovation, but it doesn't diminish Neanderthal communication. They were talking long before we showed up. Here's the twist. Neanderthals never truly vanished. If your ancestors hailed from outside Africa, 1 to 2% of your DNA comes from them. Even some sub-Saharan Africans carry traces from later migrations. A 2024 study from UC Berkeley pinpoints this interbreeding to 50,000 to 43,000 years ago, spanning 7,000 years of contact. This wasn't a one-night stand, it was a deep, ongoing exchange that shaped who we are. Neanderthal genes weren't just baggage. Many, like those for immune response and skin pigmentation, gave modern humans an edge in new environments, becoming more common over time. Others, linked to diseases like celiac or malaria susceptibility, show the trade-offs of adaptation. Every time you fight off a cold or adapt to a new climate, you might owe a nod to your Neanderthal ancestors. So why did Neanderthals disappear around 40,000 years ago? The answer is messy. A 2024 study of Thorin, a Neanderthal from France's Rhone Valley, revealed his group was genetically isolated for 50,000 years, despite living just weeks' walk from others. This fragmentation, combined with climate shifts, competition from modern humans, smaller social networks, and possibly diseases, likely tipped the scales. Their hyper-specialized bodies, perfect for icy Europe, may have struggled when the climate warmed. But extinction isn't the full story. Through interbreeding, Neanderthals merged into our lineage. They didn't lose, they became part of us, their genes and lessons enduring in our bodies and behaviors. Neanderthals weren't the dead-end cousins we once imagined. They were nature's masterpieces, sculpted to conquer environments that would break us. They forged tools with industrial precision, painted caves with purpose, and cared for their wounded with a tenderness we still strive to emulate. Their story isn't one of failure, but of partnership, their DNA woven into ours, their innovations shaping our past. Every time you show resilience, compassion, or creativity, you're echoing a legacy forged in ice and stone. Neanderthals didn't just survive, they helped make us who we are, challenging us to see human evolution not as a race to the top, but as a shared journey of extraordinary beings.